In this video, I want to introduce you to the GTD system architecture map, which is at the core of what it means to be organized and to have a GTD system. Now, I know that this map may look complicated, so I've split it into three key components that help explain what it is and what it's meant for. Those key components are shown here to the right. The first are the 5 habits. The 5 habits are the habits that you need to engage in on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis in order to keep yourself organized. The 8 buckets are the 8 different places in which you can store organizational material as you move through your organizational process. And then your storage systems and software are the physical or electronic mediums you use to house your 8 buckets. Now, interestingly, it turns out that you can only store your organizational material in one of 8 places, which I have listed here, and we'll cover them. So the first is your calendar. Your calendar, of course, houses your meetings, but it can also house day-specific actions and information, so that if you want to call Susan on Friday before she's on vacation for the rest of the week, that's something that you can place on your calendar as a day-specific next action. You can also do this with information, so that if you have a flyer that you want to review on Friday before the event on Saturday, you can place that on your calendar as a day-specific piece of information that you'd like to review. The next item on this list is the next actions list. Now, it's just what you think it is. It's a to-do list that houses all of your commitments that you've agreed with yourself upon. A waiting on list is everybody for whom you're waiting on a response to email, documents, or status updates. Anybody who owes you something. Reference material is exactly what it sounds like. It's material that you'd like to reference at a future date, and this can include things like documents, meeting notes, project notes, and web clippings. Project support material is a subset of reference material and generally includes meeting notes and project notes that you want to refer to back in the future. Lists are lists of things that you'd want to refer to. So an example of this would be a list of the restaurants in St. Louis that you'd like to try, and the next time you go to dinner you could refer to this list and choose one of the restaurants. Agendas is a note or a document that houses everything that you want to cover with a specific individual the next time you see them. And a someday maybe list is all of those to-do items that you're not prioritizing right now. You want to keep them on a someday maybe list so that you can review the list on a regular basis and decide whether those items need to be prioritized up into your next actions list. Now, you'll see that those 8 buckets are listed here in green in this area. And I want you to notice something, which is that the majority of the buckets are housed for me in Evernote as my software application. Now, this will be different for you, and what I'll actually have you do in the future is where you see Evernote written here, calendar, email, OneNote, is have you write in for you what software systems or physical systems you use to house your different organizational buckets. You'll see that I use Evernote for the majority of my organizational buckets. And then of course I use some type of file storage system to store my files, OneNote to store my project meeting notes, and then email to store, of course, all the correspondence that I want to refer to in the future, and then my calendar for any day-specific actions and information. So that represents the relationship between my software systems and the buckets themselves, and that's something that I'll have you define for yourself in the future going forward. Now, the next thing I want to cover are the habits. So they are to capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. The first of which, of course, is to capture. Stuff comes into your life, and when it does, it represents an obligation to you, something that you have to figure out what it means. And that stuff can come from life, it can come from projects without actions, it can come from emails, it can come from meeting notes that you take, it can come from a variety of places. The key is to take all of that stuff and to place it into a centralized inbox. Once it's in a centralized inbox, that allows you to clarify what each individual item means to you. And that act of clarifying is what allows you to organize those individual items into one of your 8 buckets. Once you're sufficiently organized and you have processed through your entire inbox, it's time for you to review your system to understand what's on your to-do list. Now that starts with your calendar, because your calendar represents your hard landscape for the day. This includes your meetings and your day-specific actions and information. Once you understand your hard landscape, you can then review your context-specific next actions, which is a fancy way of saying your to-do list as it relates to your current context. So that if you're at work, you only see your to-do items related to being at work and not those related to errands or being at home. You'll choose your task and then you'll engage in work. After you've completed a task, 2 things typically happen. One is that more stuff gets created, which completes the loop for your GTD system, and the other is that you have the opportunity to review your system again to choose a new task. Now that's really it. It represents the whole of the organizational system and how it flows and what systems you use. It's important to review this map for a little while because I'll be using it as we go forward into the next videos. Now, speaking of next videos, the next video that we'll cover is a video about the gap between your inbox and your buckets. There's a process that you go through to clarify what an inbox item means to you and where to put it into your organizational system, and that's what we'll cover in the next video.